It's time to tune in to Defending the Faith with Frank Harber. Hear the latest about religious liberty.
A win for religious freedom in one of the remaining blockbuster cases facing the U.S. Supreme Court this term.
A legal battle continues for the Little Sisters of the Poor for nearly a decade now.
A street preacher armed with a speaker, a microphone, and a camera strapped to his chest is now banned from the village.
Our founding fathers believed in the separation of church and state, but not for one fleeting moment did they believe in the separation of God and government.
And powerful apologetics. Are you prepared to defend the faith?
I'm convinced unless we trust in God, this nation is finished.
We're facing a new kind of enemy. We're involved in a new kind of warfare, and we need the help of the Spirit of God.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Defending the Faith. I am your host, Frank Harber, and this is another episode of Defending the Faith. If you've never seen our show before, we do shows on apologetics, we do moral issues, we do all kinds of stuff that revolves around the Christian faith. And you can find out more about us, Defending the Faith Alliance, at defendingthefaith.law. And we have all kinds of things going on right now. We have legal cases all across the country where we're defending religious liberty. We also have new things that we're doing in the field of apologetics, helping people understand why Christianity is true, how to know there's a God. If you haven't got a free copy online, you can get a copy of Objection Overruled. It's our new ebook. You can go to defendingthefaith.law and sign up, and you can get that and get our newsletter and get our legal updates and all kinds of stuff. Well, I'm really excited about the show today because we have Andy Dillard on the show. And if you have never heard this name, you're in for a treat today because he was a professional golfer and he did something that's never been done before. It's never been done since. And we're going to talk about that. He's written a book about it. And the show is not just about golf today, but it's about something bigger. It's about God. And that's two of my favorite subjects, God and golf. And, you know, God's done a great work in Andy Dillard's life, and God is using him mightily. And he's just come out with this new book called 6 in a Row. And we'll tell you in a minute where you can get a copy of this because this is a good book. I've read it, and it's a great, great true story that has happened. And you'll see many names in the book. You know their names. Payne Stewart and other great golfers appear in this book. And it's a story about something that happened in the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. But I'm not going to spoil it for you yet. But welcome to the show, Andy Dillard.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Frank.
Well, I tell you what. So you grew up in Tyler, Texas, but you live in Oklahoma. So kind of give us your background. Tell everybody how you ended up in Oklahoma and where you come from and all that.
I've asked myself that question a few times. I grew up raised in Tyler. Obviously, had a golf background, had a successful junior golf career. So,
how old were you when you started playing?
9 years old.
Wow.
And probably when I was 12 or 13, I just already knew that golf was going to be my sport and my gig. And I knew the Lord had blessed me with talent enough to play professionally. So I was just dumb enough to believe I could do it. So I was originally going to go to Texas A&M University.
Whoop.
And went on a recruiting trip to Oklahoma State. And Coach Holder, he sold me on Oklahoma State and the chance to win national championships there. So it wasn't an easy decision, but I made the decision to go there. That was in 1981. I was a freshman, and I've been there ever since. So, but played college golf at Oklahoma State. We won one national championship in '83.
Wow.
And and I learned, obviously, I was playing and practicing with the best players in the country every day. So it was a preparation for me to turn professional, and hopefully my dreams were to play on the PGA Tour. So,
which you did. So you leave OSU and you started playing the tour. How'd you get started doing that? Did you just check the box one day and said, I'm a pro, and just start
yes,
playing?
you just, those were my questions. How do I turn pro? You just say you're pro and you enter a tournament as a professional. So, I was playing pings at the time. So Ping got me and another guy exemptions into one of their tournaments up in the Northeast. So the first professional tournament I played in, I finished third and made $13,000.
Wow.
And so for a little country guy from East Texas, I remember my friend telling me, hey, you don't know how much money you just made. But that was back in 85, which is different than today's times, but 13,000 is still a lot of money. So I had it. I was eaten by the bug, the professional, playing golf for money. That's what I'd always wanted to do. I'd grown up gambling quite a bit since I was a kid. There wasn't a lot of junior golf at that time. You had your club championships. The AJGA was just getting started. So the number of players in junior golf, it wasn't there. So I didn't know or have anything else. I grew up learning how to play golf by gambling.
So this just blows my mind. So the first PGA Tour event you ever played in, you got third.
Yes.
Do you remember who won?
No.
I think it's incredible to get third. You know what? Stan Utley.
I'm pretty sure it was a guy named Jeff Sanders.
Oh, okay.
Who's up in the Northeast now and runs used to run a few events for what is now the Corn Ferry Tour. Yes, this was a co-sponsored PGA Tour event. It was like their second tour at the time. They had 10 tournaments. So I got a good taste of professional golf right out of the bat.
So like we were talking about earlier, so Stan Utley won his very first tournament. And then I've also played golf with Garrett Willis. I don't know if Garrett won his very first tournament.
Sometimes being ignorant to the situation is good.
Yeah. And I don't think either one of them has ever won again. I mean, what a nice thing to, win the first one.
Absolutely.
But third is not shabby. So you're thinking, boy, this is easy, probably at that point.
I wasn't thinking it was easy, but I was very sure that was where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was confident in my own skin.
Okay, so take us from there. You got third in your first tournament. So how does your tour career start developing here?
That was the initial start of my professional career. In order to get on the PGA Tour, you had to go through tour school.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, every year, if you weren't on tour, that was what you were preparing for the entire year. So my first year, I made it to the finals of tour school, but didn't get my tour card. So I went over and played in Asia to start out. And quite an experience. After that trip, I would never have any problems here in the United States.
Wow.
It's very eye-opening how great we have it in this country and how much better our country is than every other country in the world.
Yeah.
Like I say, I would never, after that trip, don't get me wrong, I've had problems, but I appreciate my problems I have here.
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing other countries in the rest of the world that there is no middle class, and how fortunate everybody that grows up in this country that, most of the people don't appreciate what they have.
Yeah.
So, but I do because I've seen the other side. But that was the first year. Second year, I go through tour. I play on this tour. I go through tour school the second year and I get my PGA Tour card. 1986. So all of a sudden, one of the things I've practiced and thought about and dreamed about my whole life, here I am. I'm there. So I played on tour 86, 87, and 88. Had some success out there periodically. I kept my tour card the first year. The second year, I missed it by $600. That was brutal because I could go back over the course of a year and think of one shot.
Yeah.
that would keep you from that. But probably at that time in my life, I wasn't mature enough to handle being on the PGA, I wasn't a mature enough individual to be in a grown-up world. I've looked back and wondered many times and thought about what went wrong, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. But sometimes it came too easy for me. The Lord blessed me with hand-eye coordination. That's just, when I was passing through, I know he held his finger on the button a little bit. He was doing something else. But sometimes it came too easy for me. Because of that, just the God-given ability. Not all the time. I if had it to do over again, I would hopefully be a more mature person and address that as an adult game instead of just out playing and having fun, and it's going to be there all the time. So as fate would have it, that would be the last time I ever qualified for the PGA Tour. I missed it 2 other times, in 1989 and 2001, making it to the finals and missing it by 1 stroke.
Oh,
which the first one was tough in '89, but there wasn't any doubt in my mind after that the day was coming when I would regain my tour card and play back out there again. That never happened. In 2001, I missed it by 1 stroke, and that was devastating because I knew as I looked at that leaderboard, at that scoreboard at tour school, I knew when I walked away from there that day would never, I was done. Mm-hmm. So to have been playing a game your entire life, coming extremely close to reaching your dreams, dreaming big and chasing and having your dream right there in your hands and it not happen, I knew those days were over. So that was almost as devastating a day as after Saturday at the U.S. Open. So, or actually after the U.S. Open. But having your dreaming big your whole life on the putting green, practicing, hey, this is when this is to get in the Masters, and then it not happen. That's a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. So you have to start asking I started asking myself, why, how, and why, how and why, how and why. So, I played on tour 3 years off and on, a lot after that, on what they call the Korn Ferry Tour now. Yeah. Originally, the Ben Hogan Tour, played in the first event of that. Played on that tour off and on for 19 years. And really, there were lots of times I played places, if they were going to pay, I was going to play. Extremely small towns, places people have never heard of unless they live there, with immense amount of pressure, way more than playing in a PGA Tour event or the U.S. Open, because you're playing for their money. That's easy. I've been in times before in Diboll, Texas, outside of Lufkin, where I had to make a couple of 6-footers to make my truck payment the next month. Man. And this was after they're already calling for the month previous that I hadn't paid. So, man, sometimes this game is tough. You have to handle adversity. And for myself, all throughout my career, playing professional golf, that's kind of the key to being successful, not only in golf, but anything else. But that was kind of the nutshell of my professional career. Never did what I had hoped it would do. But as I've grown older, I've kind of found out that there was a reason and a purpose behind all of that.
So Andy, missing, out in Q school, getting your tour card by not once, but twice. I mean, that's got to be hard to deal with, especially, asking why. And, these ups and downs of golf, I bet it's really hard to navigate all that if you were without the Lord.
Oh, absolutely. I can speak from experience.
Yeah.
When I say without the Lord, I knew who Jesus was, had accepted him when I was 5 or 6 years old. Got baptized when I was in 7th grade, and it's kind of, I guess, ironic. I do not know. But after I got baptized in the 7th grade was when my golf really started exploding. And from then on, golf became my God, not Jesus. So my priorities were out of line. You know, now you even want Jesus on top of your priority list and work your way down. Well, he was I don't even know if he was on mine. I was a heathen. There have been very few people that could throw together a string of cuss words like I did when I was even at that age. So, but to answer your question, going through that process, yes, looking back, it was all out of whack, and I can see where my life would have made sense to me. I would have been. He's the one that gave me the talent. Why aren't I playing for him? Why am I out playing for myself? It was you've got to be extremely careful at that level of anything you do, not to become self-centered, because you got to believe in yourself.
Yes.
If you don't, you're in trouble. You're not going to get to where you want to go. But on the flip side, you've got to realize who gave you this talent, who's giving you this opportunity, who's giving you everything in your life. And for me at that time of my life, I didn't have anything. When I say I didn't pray very often. Wasn't going to church, going to practice at the golf course. Like I say, golf had become my God, and I was extremely self-centered. And as the Bible tells you, that combination leads to destruction.
Yes. You know, some of the stories of people that were golfers and found the Lord, you know, Payne Stewart, who you know, and you'll probably mention him in a minute when we get into the 6 in a row story. It's an amazing story. We're going to get to it. But, you know, Payne Stewart, you know, when he found his change was dramatic. And I remember, you know, Lee Jansen, who's won 2 U.S. Opens, and you know, what a great guy. He was sitting at Payne's funeral, and they're talking about what happened to Payne. And of course, Lee witnessed it. I mean, he witnessed the change in Payne. Payne was one of his best friends, and they'd battled down the stretch at the U.S. Open and stuff. But you know, Lee made a commitment right then and there at Payne's funeral that, you know, he was going to live it. He was going to live the rest of his life for Jesus. And, you know, it suddenly put stuff into perspective that, you know, as great as golf is and as big as golf is, and, you know, there's bigger things, you know, you know, God and eternity and everything else. And it's just a tool. And, you know, God gave you this talent, and, you know, you still have it. I played golf with Andy this morning, and I mean, with a borrowed set of clubs, his swing is sweet. And he played with the putter that you'll hear about in the story. And man, he rolls it so good. So, I mean, God gave you a gift to play this game. Now tell us about what 6 in a row is about. How let's get into the U.S. Open here. So by this time you've lost your card, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, I lost my card in '88 was my last year out there. So I was still full blown. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to be back on the PGA Tour and going and blowing. You know, it's almost looking back, the Lord protected me from myself. Well, many times, especially with this golf tournament. But this U.S. Open, I dreamed. When I say dreamed, when I was a kid going to the golf course, I would always listen to music that got me fired up. Not even just every day. I'd seen Ned Too Tall Jones did it for the Dallas Cowboys. He said one time he drove around Dallas listening to music before the games and got fired up. So I'm just dumb enough as a kid to go, hey, that's cool. That's what I'm going to do. So I would listen to this music driving a golf course when I was a kid growing up all the time and dreaming of winning the U.S. Open because I knew I could.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is make pars. Heck, I can make pars. Now, if I have to make a bunch of birdies, I'm in trouble. But that, and I also knew, to me, finishing in the top 16 at the U.S. Open got me into the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that plays golf, let's face it, if you play golf and I said, hey, you're going to get to play in the Masters this year, you're going to go crazy.
Yeah.
It's a dream of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough that the Lord had blessed me with enough talent that I could do that. I could play. Now I wasn't dumb enough. I knew I could. I didn't think I could win the Masters, but I knew I was good enough to finish top 24 every year and to keep coming back.
Yeah.
So that being said, I tried to qualify for the U.S. Open a few times and missed it. It was a grind. 36 holes in one day. Being a short, fat guy, that was a tough gig anyway. So, as fate would have it, in 1992, at the start of the year, I started playing pretty good. And it was crazy. At the start of the year, we were out practicing in Palm Springs. And I asked Scott Verplank, I said, hey, where's the U.S. Open this year? And he said, Pebble Beach. And I thought, that course is made for me. I'd played it before. I thought, I love this. I can do that. So it's kind of like the seed was planted there. The qualifying's come around. There's 2 stages. And I won the first one in Oklahoma City. And the second one I'd signed up for in Memphis, Tennessee, which was where the PGA Tour stop was.
Yeah.
And wherever the tour stop is, they get more spots.
Huh.
So I was going to drive over and try to qualify for the Memphis Open and for the U.S. Open, the second stage. Memphis Monday, U.S. Open was Tuesday. So driving over there, when you're by yourself, you have time for your mind to wander sometimes and think. And so I kind of told myself, I said, hey, listen, you're playing good. Realistically, if you make one of these 2, you've been fortunate because that's just the nature of qualifiers. So the first one for Memphis, I made a 5-foot birdie putt in a playoff to get into the Memphis Open on Monday. So all of a sudden, I've met my 50% goal the first day. So it takes a little pressure off, a little heat off of the next day. So I get off into this qualifier and it's 36 holes and it's wet and it's hot and humid in Memphis. And with 9 holes left, as I was walking to my last 9, my friend Willie said, hey, do you want to know how you stand? How you need? I said, yeah. He goes, 1 under and you're in. I said, holy crap. So as fate would have it, played that 9 holes, shot 2 under, finished it dark. So I made a lot of guys unhappy when I came in and knocked them out.
Oh, I bet.
But I wasn't concerned about them at the time. So all of a sudden I'm in the Memphis Open. And then the next week I'm in Pebble. And so I played that week at the Memphis Open and I kept getting better and I hit the ball great. And for me, which was opposite, normally I was a great putter and my ball striking was iffy. So I played that week in Memphis, made the cut, and didn't make any putts. And I knew I'd seen enough U.S. Opens on television that the golf game I had leaving Memphis was good enough to have a special week at Pebble. The seeds, I already knew. I knew it. So, and I knew that if my putting got in order, that it could be a special week. So, as fate would have it, we play Memphis, then we fly to Pebble. And,
now, how'd you fly to Pebble? Because that's an interesting story too.
They chartered a flight. from Memphis to Monterey Peninsula, and it was full of guys playing in the Memphis Open, going to the U.S.
So there's
Open.
famous people on this plane.
Yes, sir, there are, and we sit down there, and we're on this flight, and the kid I'm next to, Trey Tyner, he and I grew up together. He is a kid from East Texas also. So, and Trey and I we were the same. We grew up blue collar, good players, played junior golf, but we also like to gamble. So Trey and I were sitting there, and we were messing around, and I didn't have any money. I wasn't broke, but I was close to broke.
You're on fumes. Yeah.
Yes. Massive fumes. So Trey and I were sitting there, and John Daly and Payne Stewart were behind us. And so I told Trey, I said, hey, listen, I'm fixing to show you this little card game. And I said, after I show it to you, we're going to turn around and ask Payne and Daly if they want to play cards. I said, I know Payne. He's going to want to, there's nothing he'd rather do than give me a hard time, beat me out of $5. So, and I knew John too. We traveled forever together. So anyways, if fate would have it, I taught Trey the game. And I said, we're not going to beat each other up. We're going after these two. He said, okay, I get it. So we turn around and we play Canadian blackjack. It's a blackjack game. And Daly had a big old wad of money on him. It irritated Payne because John didn't care. At the end of the day, both Trey and I made about $400 or $500 a piece playing poker with Daly and Payne. And so it was quite an experience playing cards with those guys and having fun. But
now you needed that money.
I needed the money.
You didn't
brother.
even have shirts to play at this.
No, I didn't.
thing.
All my clothes were dirty. I didn't have any money to clean them at the U.S. Open. I had to wash my clothes in the bathtub. Just it was crazy.
And you found a place to stay.
I stayed with Willie Wood.
Yeah.
And Stan Utley.
Yeah, I know Stan.
Stan was
Great guy.
Yes. Stan was supposed to stay with Willie, but he didn't qualify. So they said, hey, why don't you take Stan's spot? I said, yeah, great. Thank you. Because there's not a lot of places to stay out. You don't go to the U.S. Open at Pebble with no room reservations.
Wow.
So Willie and I were staying I got Stan's spot there, thank the Lord, or I'd have had no place to stay. But we get out there, and my girlfriend tells me she wants to fly out and go to the tournament. I said, yeah, sure, why not? So I had $650 to my name, and her ticket was $650 round trip. So I just spent every penny I had in my life on her plane ticket to fly out to Pebble. So I'm looking around. I thought, and so I knew I was going to get $1,000 for playing in the U.S. Open from the USGA. So I said, okay, I'm fixing to write them a $1,500 hot check. And I knew there wasn't 10 cents in my bank account. So there were two things. I knew I had to finish 36 holes because they paid you $1,000 if you finish 36.
Yeah.
When you're broke, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that, and I knew Billy Ray Brown had told us in a practice round how much money Titleist had paid him for getting on television.
Mm-hmm.
So after I've looked at this for years, I see how the Lord, you just piece the whole thing together. It's crazy. So before the tournament started, Willie and I noticed that in the pairings, I was 2 groups behind Payne, and he was previous champion. So his groups were television pairings, meaning when they went through the holes with the cameras, they were going to be on.
Yeah.
So me being 2 groups behind, I'm close to television. So I told Willie, I said, hey, it's important that I get off to a good start in this golf tournament. So maybe I can possibly get on television because Titleist pays money for that, $300 a second. And so he and I laughed and joked and said, yeah, get off to a good start. Well, he could never dream that. So tournament starts first day.
Because y'all are about to hear this. He's about to get some TV time. So, yeah, Okay, let's get into this. This is the story here.
I knew my golf game was the best it had ever been in my life. And playing golf, you can practice and do the right thing all you want. There's no guarantees you're going to play good. Mm-hmm. There's not. So to have the state of my golf game being the best it had ever been on the biggest stage that I'd ever been on, the one I dreamed about my entire life of being there, was nothing short of a miracle, period. So first day rolls around and never nervous one bit, never any anxiety that you think, and I'm fully convinced it was because anybody that knows, if you've ever been broke, that's a heavy weight on your shoulders. Yeah. That it's got its own place. It's a special, being broke is not special, but I mean, it's a weight that you won't ever forget. And having that knocking off the edge of being in the U.S. Open allowed me mentally to perform at the level that I was wanting and needed to. So all that being said, we started out and I birdied the first hole. I birdied 2. It was an easy par 5, but it was crazy. Whatever I looked and wanted the golf ball to do, it did it. It was like I wasn't even holding the golf club. I just looked where I wanted it to go, and it went there. And so I've looked back. Believe me, I've looked back and studied this a million hours. There's no doubt in my mind that the Lord had his hands on, because I'm not that good. There's no doubt in my mind the Lord had his hands on my golf club hitting those shots.
Wow.
Because like I say, I'm not that good. It doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I'm not that good. You know what I mean? So I birdied 2. When I birdied number 3, lots of people were noticing, starting to come around and watch in a pretty quick, like answer the picnic, furious.
Because you're pace. By that time in 3 under, you're close to, or you in the lead by then?
No, I'm probably 1 or 2 back.
Okay.
And I always watch scoreboards, and for whatever reason there, I don't even know what I was watching. I mean,
you're in the zone.
Yes. It was like you're breathing and you look and go, golf ball, go there. And it goes, okay, watch this. That's where I'm going with every club. So, when I almost eagled number 2.
Wow.
And my 9-iron on 3 lipped out. So when I say it was going, it was stupid. It was ridiculous. 4 was a little easy par 4, and I hit it about 2 foot. Tap in birdie. 5 was a pretty.
No, wait. By the time 4 is over, though, I mean, you got to be getting a crowd.
When I'm walking to 5T, it was a par 3, and they've changed it since then. But it was an uphill par 3, and you could see, hear, and feel the crowd and the people coming to watch.
They're leaving Payne's group. They're coming to watch you.
They're coming to see what the heck's going on with this little chubby kid from Texas. So we get to 5, and I had a formula for the U.S. Open that week. I didn't want to have no three putts, no others, which means nothing worse than bogey, and 6 pars equals a birdie at the U.S. I'd watched enough of them on television.
Yeah.
And, I'd seen them. 6 pars is worth 1 birdie at the U.S. Open. That was my formula. So I didn't ever dream of having 6 birdies, but we teed off on 5, and it was a pretty good. And every one of those holes, I'm doing nothing but wanting to make par. Par's good. Par's your friend. Par, you win. So 5 was a tough par 3. I had 5-iron in there from about 180, and every shot I hit was a soft fade. And I hit it in there 15 foot and made the putt. So now,
so you're 5 under.
I'm 5 under through five,
and you're leading the Open surely by that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got the easiest hole on the golf course coming up, number 6, a reachable par 5. I'm still not. We had to wait on the tee, and I'm standing there, and it's close. It's in the middle of the golf course, surrounded front 9, back 9. So the 6th tee is there, and as we're waiting on to hit, I was just standing there, and you could just see people coming from all around that weren't there, and I'm like, "You're 5 under at the U.S. Open," and then I said, "Okay, wait a minute, get this drive in the fairway and move forward." So we played the 6th hole, and I'd hit a marginal second shot in the rough by the green, and I was just trying to fluff it out, get it 25 foot and 2-putt and get out of there. I chipped it out 25 feet and goosed my putt, hit it way too hard, and only by the grace, it hit the middle of the hole and goes in. So when that happened, the people started going crazy.
Oh, I bet.
It was nuts. And walking from 6 green to 7 tee, we were walking over there, and Bob Estes says, "Man, that's got to be some kind of record or something." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Man, you just birdied the first 6 holes in the U.S. Open." And I said, "Yeah, I guess I did." Oh, good. So, I was watching the people and thinking, hey, this is cool. And in a way, you know what's happening, but you really don't. So, I hit it close on 7, 10 foot and missed it. And then 8's a very difficult par 4. And I hit a dadgum 5-iron in there that bled right off the left side of the green, hit and ran up 2 feet above the hole. So I could have easily birdied the first eight holes, but my 3-footer I had on number 8, it was above the hole, and I was doing nothing but hoping I 2-putt. Making it was never an option. So fortunately, I did 2-putt, and all of a sudden, I'm 6 under through 8 holes, starting out the United States Open. So as the day went on, I'm
sure the TV cameras have switched to you by this time.
I guess they had.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they had. Well, I know they had now. Yeah. At the time, you don't know. Which generally, believe me, at the time, I'm not the person they're showing on television. But the day goes on. I end up shooting 4 under for the round. When I finished signing my card and walking out, they said, "Hey, we want you in the media tent," which was unusual for me. So I said, "Yeah, sure." So I go into this huge media tent, and I'm unfamiliar with it. So I get up there, and I remember I'm sitting at a table like this in front of 300 media guys that are asking me questions, crazy stuff. So I remember one of the guys asked me, he said, "Hey, what would winning the U.S. Open mean to you?" I said, "It mean GMAC wouldn't be calling me for their next truck payment." Which I was being honest with him. I was broke. They had already been calling me last month. So I know this next month it's going to be, "Hey brother, where's our money?" So I was honest with him. When at that time, winning the U.S. Open and getting the U.S. Open trophy, it meant I wasn't gonna be broke anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna be able to make my truck payments. So that's reality. That's not the norm for a professional athlete, but it was a place I was in my life. So one of the coolest things I'll never forget, the little house Willie and I were renting was tiny. So finally finished with this media coverage after the tournament, and I got home, and they didn't have they had lockers, but not big enough to bag. So you took your bag home and back to the golf course. So I remember opening the door and had my bag on my shoulder, and Willie was sitting there on the couch, Willie Wood. And the first thing I said, hey, was I on television? He goes, you were television. I said, really? He goes, yeah. I went, yes. So I knew my tournament was made.
Yeah.
It
Titleist.
wasn't made, but guess what? I wasn't broke anymore.
Yeah.
Made the rest of the week entirely easy. Played the second day.
Except you needed some shirts, right? Because you still...
Oh, bro, my clothes were... Listen, when you walk 18 holes of golf in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's wet, and you're short and fat, overweight, you sweat like a pig, and you pick up all the dirt and the mud. You know what I mean? Bottom of the slacks, shirts, you stink. So, my laundry situation for the week probably wasn't USGA standards, we might say. So,
but somebody helps you out, though.
Fred Couples, who he and I had been friends since he was in college. Fred saw the articles in the newspaper, and he was with Ashworth.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Fred. Fred left 5 shirts in my locker.
Wow.
New ones, clean ones in the package. I thought, oh my gosh, look at this. So Fred left me some shirts to wear. Said, hey, good luck. And later on I saw him and he said, man, I kept looking and you just kept making birdie after birdie after birdie. He said, it was crazy. I said, yeah, it was pretty nuts. So, but Fred took care of me, left me some clean shirts to wear. Very appreciative, as I'm sure the people that were around me each day at the golf course were too.
So how did you finish up in this tournament?
Oh, Lordy. I finished 17th.
17th.
I finished 17th. The top 16 in ties get into the Masters. I stood on 17T the last round. Willie's caddy came out, bam me, and said, hey, do you want to know how you stand to get in the Masters? And I thought it had passed my mind. I wasn't even thinking. And I said, yeah, sure. He said, par, you're in. Well, the wind was howling that day. It was brutal conditions.
That's 2 hard holes. 17 is a par 3, and then 18 over the water with that narrow fairway curving.
Yes, and the wind was blowing left to right on 18, and I was fading the ball, which meant my tee shot was fixing to start out over the ocean and come back, hopefully. So, but anyways, as fate would have it, I bogeyed 17 and parred 18. There was still a chance when I got through that I was going to get in, and I was watching the telecast. 3 guys chipped in from unbelievable places. Gil Morgan made an 8-footer on the last hole. In fact, when we were watching, I was getting ready to run out to the 18th green and tell Gil, hey, listen. I'm serious.
Oklahoma boy.
Yes. If you miss this putt, it doesn't matter where you finish in the tournament. You're finishing the same position, making the same money. But if you miss it, I get in the Masters. Hello. So
he's a Wewoka boy. He would have missed that for you.
He would have.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he was. But being 5'8", 225, you didn't run too fast. So I didn't have any chance of getting around there in time. And Gil made his putt. So that was devastating. I didn't know how devastating that was or going to be to me in my life. To dream about playing in a golf tournament your whole life and to having it right there and then not having it happen, because the rest of the golf year I played great. I played one marginal round. I'll call it a bad round on Saturday at the U.S. Open. And because of that, I wasn't able to watch the Masters for 12 years, 13 years, because when the Masters comes on, you've got the green, you've got the colors, you've got the yellow, and you have the music. And when that came on, it took me to the worst place you can ever
Pain.
imagine. Serious heartache and pain. And so over the course of those years, I had a photograph of the third day at the U.S. Open, the leaderboard. Bogey, bogey, bogey. Just a slow trickle. And I wanted to know why. And I wanted to know how. And so for 11 years, I stared at this photo. I'm telling you, hours upon hours during days, I would just look at it and I can't tell you where I was off. And I've studied golf swing wise. Why did my shots go straight instead of fading? While it's not like I played bad, it was just a slow trickle. And then after 12 years of going through that and studying and figuring out how and why and really not understanding the why part, the how part I finally understood, the why still I didn't get it. And I was sitting there going to watch the Masters one day. The Masters was coming on that year, and I was on the couch and I thought, I can't go through life having this pain and heartache. I want to watch the Masters, you know? I mean, come on. What? And at that moment, I know what happened. The Lord spoke to me and he said, hey, listen, you didn't get in the Masters, but you got a U.S. Open record. As small a grain of sand on the beach as that is, immediately I was overwhelmed that the Lord gave you something he's never given anybody else.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was awakened. I didn't have the hurt and the pain of not getting in the Open. All of a sudden, I knew I had something that he had allowed me to do in golf that he hadn't given anybody or allowed anybody else. So it just kind of started working on me and not eating, but just brewing and talking. And I know he was talking to me the whole time. I didn't know it at the time. It was at that point in time that I started getting over of not getting in the Masters when I knew I'd done something in golf that nobody else had done. I still wasn't at a place with myself, with the Lord, to fully understand the purpose. As my wife and I, we had decided about at that time that it was time we had to start going to church. We needed the Lord in our life. We were raising our kids. We had both been raised in the church. I take full responsibility because of the self-centeredness in my golf game and thinking that was important. The most important thing of not being at a place with the Lord and in church as we should have been. She spoke to my wife and said, hey, we need to start going to church. I said, yeah, you're right. So on my journey, all of a sudden, the Lord started becoming. I was baptized in 7th grade, but I got rebaptized at Henderson Hills in Oklahoma City, Edmond, and gave myself to the Lord. And I said, "Hey, I get it. I'm yours." Mm-hmm. So throughout the years, my faith grew stronger. I knew I had material for a book. I had no interest in writing a self-fulfilling book. And I didn't want to, wasn't going to. 10 years ago, a guy approached me and he said, hey, let's write that book. I said, I just knew in my heart it wasn't right. Throughout the process, the more I learned the word, the more Jesus spoke to me, and the more I gave him my life every day and asked for him to fill me with the Holy Spirit I pray to see the day through his eyes and speak his words every day. 2 years ago, in the middle of the night, I was watching, I don't know what evangelical show I was watching, but I woke up in the middle of the night just like that. And I was watching television. And he said, "Hey, you write this book and I'll take care of the rest." I said, "Okay, done." And so the story, all of a sudden, this book, the idea, as he told me that, he started showing me this through his eyes instead of mine. And it was amazing. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So every day now, I have one purpose, and that's to bring people to Christ. And he gave me this story and this book to do that. When I was a kid growing up, it was my big dream, my intentions to win the U.S. Open and play in the Masters. It was the Lord's idea to give me a U.S. Open record and for me to write this book and to bring people to him.
Wow, this is an incredible story. 6 in a row. What the U.S. Open taught me about golf, faith, and purpose. And the Lord is doing a new thing in Andy's life. And, he feels a special call on his life to serve him. And, if you'd like to have him at your church, you could have him come and, or also too, for men's meetings or anything else. I tell you what, we played golf today, and Andy, he also teaches golf. So if you want to get a golf lesson from him, you can do that. Or, what your church ought to do is have an exhibition and a clinic, because I tell you this. So Andy Dillard today saw something in my swing, and he said, "Frank, I'm going to tell you the holy grail of golf." He told it to me, and I wrote it down on a scorecard. I put it at my house, and I put it in a safe place where nobody can see it. But let me tell you what, I hit the ball better, and it works, and he just has some stuff. So, you need to get him to speak at your church or your event. Andy, how do people contact you about doing that? Or if you're listening and you want to have him on your show or podcast or whatever, how can we get in touch with you?
It's very easy, simple. You can pick up the phone and call me. I'm on Facebook. My phone number is 405-535-2529. Not afraid to give it out. I hope everybody calls.
All right. Good old 405 area code. That is Oklahoma. And Andy, any closing thoughts about this, about what God has showed you?
He's showing me that, just like in Matthew, you can go down the wide path or you can go down the narrow one. I've been on both. I've been self-centered. The one that leads to destruction led to destruction, and the narrow one leads to him. It's very important in today's times for people to find and know the Lord. I don't think we're here for a lot longer. My own personal opinion, the rapture's coming. So he's told me it's my purpose for him to use this as a tool to bring people to him. And so that's what I do.
So Andy, in getting this book, do you have a website that you could direct us to?
Absolutely. AndyDillard.com. You can order this book off of Amazon, and they'll have it at your front porch the next day.
That is so awesome. I think Andy's learned some things in golf that he's applied to life that God has shown him. He was showing me today how, every time you hit a shot, it's an exam. And the ball is going to teach you something and give you a grade, and it's going to tell you something, but can you learn it? And, I've hit thousands and thousands and thousands of golf balls, but I didn't realize that the golf ball was trying to tell me something, was trying to teach me something, until you told me what the Holy Grail was. And now I know. And, my two sons, Graham and Hunter, they're sitting in here and they've just started playing golf, and they're probably going to be like, "Dad, tell us what the Holy Grail is. Well, I tell you what, maybe I will, but I will save that for Andy when he comes to your area and your church. So be sure and pass this podcast on to your favorite golfers in your life. Pass it on to your pastor so he can have Andy speak in your church and come to an area near you and tell you about the Holy Grail and other grails that are found in life.